Welcome back to the Awful Music Podcast. Today we have my friend and vocalist of our band Crusade, Bryan Segraves. We are excited as heck to have him on today. Bryan has been a musician for most of his life. He is a professional vocal coach and just an all-around beautifully exuberant, cheerful, and lovable man. I'm curious about making this a regular series of just interviewing guys from Crusade so you guys can get to know them better. And also, I think you'd be surprised how interesting of people they actually are. If you're on YouTube or a platform that allows commenting, go ahead and let me know in the comments if that interests you, and let's hop into it.
I had that kind of similar sensation when I turned 25, and I'm like, I can never do DCI now. Not that I ever wanted to.
DCI?
That, like Drum Corps International. Like, it's like professional marching band kind of thing. And now I don't know if y'all know, I was a huge marching band nerd for years and years and years.
Did not know.
Middle school, high school, college. Like my declared instrument in college was trombone kind of thing.
Okay,
so,
I remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were doing, I remember you mentioning it when we did the Discord call, but I didn't know you were like that deep into it.
Yeah, I freaking loved it, dude. I like ate and slept it and was like band president and all that stuff.
This really explains a lot, actually.
I feel like
especially your sense of humor.
I was going to say, like, it explains, I feel like, probably about a fifth of my sense of humor and personality if you know that I was literally just a band kid in high school kind of thing.
Like hard into it, too.
Yeah.
How did you escape normal?
Like normal being a band kid? Like getting out of it?
Yeah.
How did I get out of it? The cult of band. It was my freshman year of college, and I think I just had one of those moments where I realized it's so intensely time consuming. And it's one of those things that once you graduate college, like that's it. Like you don't do it anymore. You know, so it's really like unto academic world kind of thing, and that's it. And there's other things musically that I wanted to be giving my time and space to. And I recognized that the longer I held on to it, the harder it'd be to let go of those things. And so, after my freshman year of college, I was like, I lost my scholarships for it and everything, but I was like, I'm going to pull from marching band and, doing the symphony band tour and doing all that stuff. And I'm very, very glad I did. It changed my whole life pulling from it. But it was one of the I think it was the first time in my life I felt like a crazy person for saying no to something that I really wanted so that I could have something different and better, and it ended up paying off.
Okay. Isn't that a freaking ridiculous decision to have to deal with, is having to say no to something that you really want, but you're saying it so you can get something else that you want more? Mm-hmm.
Which was what for you at the time?
At the time, it was specifically doing worship leading in the church. Like I did that for about like 10, 11, 12 years. Like I still do on occasion, but that was, at the time, that was what I felt like I should be. That was my marching band transition, in the same way going into marching band in the middle school was the thing that I felt like I should be doing.
What does leading worship at church entail?
It really depends on what the specific church denomination is, but the shorthanded of it is that you're in charge of basically just leading the songs for the congregation. It could be either before or after the preacher comes up and gives a message kind of thing. So I'm in charge of the rehearsal for the band. I'm in charge of the singing. I'm in charge of the...
So you're kind of like MD.
MD, I was going to say.
Yeah, MD is a great way to put it.
Yeah,
so here's a question for you.
So you knew you'd be singing and being... sorry, go ahead.
Very good.
Yeah.
Did you watch my docu-series on Christian music?
I did, yeah.
Okay. What was your takeaway from that? I'm curious.
I had a lot of similar experiences that a lot of the people shared. Yeah, so for me, it wasn't this confirmation of like, told you so.
Yeah.
It was more of like, oh crap, I'm not alone. I'm not a crazy person.
I think that's one of the reasons why it took off, is like, I didn't realize I was accidentally tapping into a whole community of people who feel like they can't talk about it, and it's, by the way, I don't want it to be like a condemnation of the whole thing, obviously,
right.
Which I'm assuming you didn't take.
I don't feel that way at all. Yeah.
And I mean, you still seem like you're very positive on the worship music thing in general. I mean, you're still tied to that community in ways.
Yeah.
So okay. That makes me feel better.
Yeah. So I think kind of be at the root of it. It's moving from like marching band, basically just saying no to something that I really wanted and enjoyed at the time, but knowing that the the expiration date on that thing was coming up, I wanted to be prepared for what it felt like I was supposed to be doing next and integrating into next. And so marching band was like this thing for me that I loved. And, you know, it in a lot of ways really positioned me in kind of in a maybe a little over the top, but in a weird way. And it kind of saved my life in middle school and high school. Like it gave me my first sense of fraternity and community in the context of making music. And I never had anything like that before that.
Were you ever a band kid, Casey?
No.
Okay. So like, is this like completely foreign to you?
Yeah, that's why I'm going to be the one asking the dumb questions here.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Ask the dumb questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just keep saying what you were saying though, because I'm learning is there there are questions I don't have to ask the more you talk.
Yeah, like filling in gaps for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did marching band. I think from the time I was like 11 to 22, something like that. And then somewhere in there, somewhere between the ages of 18 to 22, I transitioned from that sort of being my central musical expression and like doing composition for the band and for the choir and doing all that stuff to specifically just doing MDing and worship leading within the context of the church.
You mentioned earlier that you, I guess, relatively recently transitioned from being, I forget what the word you used. Okay, you're like right in front of the mic, man.
Isn't that the point?
Right in front of the mic, brother.
That'll be the highlight of my contribution for tonight.
Please just do a short of that.
Yeah.
We probably should, honestly.
Yeah. It'll be like the pig squeal, you know.
Yeah, it's like how
thing where it's like except it's a straw.
That's how Will Ramos does it. He just like has a smoothie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
a tiny smoothie in his mouth at all times.
You know what that is?
Yeah,
well, yeah.
But the fuck was I even saying? God damn it. God damn it. You fucking asshole.
It's all just words.
You said that you were transitioning now from being, I don't think the word was musician, but to an artist now.
Yeah.
So you were doing the worship thing for a while, and then how did you recently transition to being an artist, for lack of a better term?
I mean, this is a podcast, so I can just, we're here to talk.
Yeah.
So I don't have to give like the 5-minute shorthand answer.
Correct.
But
as a matter of fact, I'd be upset if you did.
Yeah. Oh, life happens to all of us, and for better or worse, here I am now.
There can be no darkness without the light.
No, right. We all have to wrestle within, and like here I am now, and who knows where I'll be in 10 years.
Yeah.
So I really had like a set of very, very difficult circumstances happen in my life within a very short period of time. It was within like less than a year. I had just a lot of very difficult life and family circumstances all come up at the same time. And I realized in that time I hadn't been writing for probably about 7 years or so. And to backtrack even more, I've written my whole life. Like as long as I have conscious memory, I've always been sitting at the piano, and whether it's like pecking out melodies or singing something to it, I've always been writing.
Which for those who are unfamiliar, Bryan is an awesome pianist.
Yeah, I do keys as well. And I love it. I love the piano. I love playing keys.
You love the piano.
I do.
That's why he's a pianist.
As opposed to the piano. Well, you beat me to it.
As opposed to the pianist.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole.
No, that's how you pronounce it.
It's a pianist.
I wish it wasn't pianist.
Show me a piano.
Okay, I wish that's not how it was pronounced, but it's fucking pronounced, Casey.
No, it's not.
Literally. Okay, Bryan.
It's not.
I've heard pianist my whole life.
Fucking same.
But I was also in the
appeal to
classical
majority fallacy.
Protest it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I've practiced at quiet my entire life.
Yeah.
At quiet.
At piano.
Piano. As opposed to forte.
Piano. Oh. At quiet. That's right. Go ahead. Yeah.
So now I'm just thinking Piano Reeves.
Wow.
You're a keyinist.
Right. Keyinist. Okay, I'm totally in there. You're a keyinist.
Morpheus like, he's the chosen one. No, at piano, he's the chosen one. Correct dynamic marking.
Yeah.
So one of many reasons why I love having Bryan in the band. So good.
Specifically for piano references.
Well, just because you have a wonderful, fun, and bright personality.
Yeah.
You're exuberant.
Yeah.
But we were very distracted from your experience with worship and piano.
Yeah. So, I've written my whole life, and what context or what genre has never really mattered to me. I think of really up until like the early 1900s, mid 1900s, like genre hasn't really been like a tremendous specific thing until like the 50s, 60s and all that. And so like to me, it's never really mattered like, oh, I'm going to write in march style or in chorale style or in whatever. I just kind of would write what I would write. And same thing goes for worship music. It's like not about a genre or a specific avenue. It's just, what part of what I write kind of thing. So
you have like a bunch of demos that are like little snippets that you've been showing us.
Mm-hmm.
Was that intended to be worship stuff or no?
For me, it was, but I wasn't. I've never tried to. I write because I enjoy it. It's purely selfish and cathartic for me. If that makes sense.
I get that absolutely.
But yeah, for me it was. That was intended to be like worship for me.
For anyone who doesn't know, like Bryan writes some like cool little like prog ideas that he keeps as like little snippets around. And like some of them, I guess, more metal forward, other ones not. And I would have never associated that with worship music. I'm not saying it can't be, but it's just not would not been my my first takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and that's
is it worship music? Would you regard it as
it is to me.
You think it qualifies?
Yeah.
Is it because it's about it's Christly?
There weren't any lyrics to it that I'm aware of.
Yeah. I think worship for me is it's really hard to qualify, but it's about a specific heart posture. It's just adoration for God.
Okay, yeah.
Simple as that. So you can worship in the way that you plunge a toilet, if your heart's in the right place, kind of thing.
It's the worship
in that sense.
I mean, I happen to agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, to me, it was it was sort of an expression of worship, and even the stuff that I do now still feels the same, even if it's not like intended for a CCM or a Sunday morning crowd.
Is that why you don't want to say fuck in any of the lyrics?
There's something about singing versus speaking cuss words. It just feels different.
That's fair,
and that could be part of it. I've not like wrestled with that. I don't really know, but that could be part of it. Honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to think about that too, because when I like that rings true for me as well, without having really thought about it or why. I have no problem cursing in my lyrics or anything, but I always feel like I have to justify it a lot more in that context than I would when I'm speaking. When I'm speaking, it's just another sound.
It's like breathing.
Yeah, but when I compose something and I'm like, okay, that's the word for that. That's
what
you know what I mean.
And
You're
if it is that
really
word,
intentional. Yeah. So really, I noticed that when I have to premeditate and compose something, I have to justify every word so much more than when I guess just don't care as much because I'm talking. But
right.
Yeah, and I feel like, man, it is really fucking. It does sound really lame when you curse, and it doesn't sound like it was necessary. But you wouldn't even do it if you felt like there was no better word than fuck, for example.
Yeah, I think it's just not something that it's not even a writing thing. It just doesn't sing well to me. It may be half of a writing and half of a singing thing. I'm not really sure where the line for me there is.
Can you point to songs that you like by other artists in which their use of fuck or shit or something does sing well to you?
I think my buddy Shaylee Bourget, he was the singer for Of Mice and Men.
Nice.
And he started his own solo project a few years ago called Dayshell, and he's got his first track on really the debut album, and he like absolutely loses his mind in it and just like screams and vocalizes into it, and I'm like, that's merited. that feels so honest and so true. And there's nothing else he could have said in that moment that would have been correct there. It was, it was carnal and primal.
Does it disqualify itself from being worship music in that moment to you, or no?
No, not to me.
Yeah, because I wouldn't think so either, based on what you said. Your description of it, of what it would take to qualify as such, would be
No,
I mean, this is going off of your definition of worship music.
Right. And there's also the difference between like what's a hard like historical liturgical fact with like tons of like biblical history of like what is worship versus what, and then there's like the massive gray area of conviction, kind of thing. And I mean, for like, some people, conviction is, it's just, it can be different. Something is right for some people and not for others, but it's not universally right or wrong.
Like when I pray, I'll say fuck, because I feel like that's being honest. That's giving openly and I guess vulnerably of myself. That's like I wouldn't want to speak to the Lord the way I wouldn't speak to a loved one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think to differentiate, there is a difference between a cuss word and a curse word. There's a difference between vulgarity and a word that literally carries the sense of a literal curse behind it. So like, saying something like, well,
God damn you to hell.
Well, even like, well, this song is the shit, that could be a good thing. It'd be a positive thing. But saying something like, man, I suck, I've got a terrible memory, that's a literal curse word because you're speaking curse words over yourself. I suck, I have a terrible memory. Like those are like actual that you're speaking over yourself. Or gossip is an obvious one. Slander, all those things. Like those are curse words. I think there's a difference between those two.
Okay, I'm definitely not on that philosophical train, but that's interesting. I like that.
That's how I parse it.
How does the not Christian feel about that? I'm very curious, Casey.
Well, yeah. What's a curse to you?
Good question.
Yeah, I'd have to know for that for me to comment relevantly.
I think it's anything that has any form of ill or mal intent towards another person or even including yourself. Right. So like something as simple as, and again, about the heart behind it, I can say like, you suck to a buddy of mine. And it's like, well, I'm not really like you suck kind of thing.
Yeah.
But saying something that brings down essentially just the character of a person or is pointed at a person in that sense, to me, is what I would define as a curse word.
Okay. Yeah. I've never heard it used that way, but I accept that. To me, it's always has more of like a magical connotation,
for sure.
Where you're
something spiritual or mythical.
You're trying to take your malintent towards another and manifest it through supernatural means, or means that we maybe don't understand or something, right? Because a lot of times what was once supernatural is now understood.
Right. Exactly.
But that would qualify as a curse to me. So, but I guess in the same way, if you're expressing malintent towards someone and you're trying to put them down and make them feel worse in a way that is seeking to manifest worse for them.
Right.
Because you're not going to tell someone you suck or who you like, you're bad.
Thanks for looking at me when you said that.
Well, I was just trying not to only talk to him, but without hoping that,
that they do in fact
that they do in fact that actually fruits itself.
Right. I think if I could like just blanket statement and foundation for, and again, this is for me, I think that words are very powerful, and I think they're a lot more powerful than a lot of us give them credit for. And that's really for me. I'm not cautious. I'm not like scared or anxious about like the words that I choose and the words that I use, but I am aware of the words that I want to have in my vernacular and the words that I want to be sharing. And I don't know what the difference is, but there is a difference between speaking something versus singing something, in my experience.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, fucking Kim by Eminem, I think is a perfect example. Right. I love that song.
Right. And if there weren't a difference, then we would either just speak stuff or we would just sing stuff exclusively. If there wasn't necessarily a difference between the two.
So transitioning to did you have more to say on it?
I'm just wondering if it's the accompaniment of harmony that makes that supplements or supports something, like that makes speaking something different than singing something. I wonder if it's accompaniment with harmony, or it's marriage to harmony that changes the connotation or the impression, the context of it. I don't know. This isn't really worth keeping in, honestly, but I was just
conjecture.
I felt like there was a lot there that actually I'm gonna have to think a lot about. Maybe in the next few weeks, I'll have something of value to add.
Yeah,
you're good. I mean, I was kind of running with that too. I'm like, I don't even know if it's even harmony, but I mean, I see what you're saying.
Whatever,
for sure.
All the different facets of
the music,
rhythm, harmony, whatever.
Well, I mean, think of the brain activity you have going during music as opposed to just normal speech, like prefrontal cortex language and syntax. With music, there's a whole lot more brain activity going on, and so whether it's like there's a lot more integration going on, and so parts of my brain aren't into that,
but take a sample, and I just did this in my last song that I put out. If you take a sample of someone speaking and set it to music, then you're contextualizing that speech in music, and it changes the impression of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure. One
of my favorite things about my fiance is that she has a really high voice, and when she talks, everything to me as a singer, as a musician, every sentence of hers is a discernible melody that I can sing back to her.
Yeah,
because there's such defined pitches, and she has this really bright, high, very, very clean, effeminate voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just in this register where it sounds like a bird call or something, where you're like, oh, that was a melody, and they're really just like, it's really just birds being like, yo, come fuck me, I'm over here, come fuck.
And you're like, that's beautiful.
But it's like high enough, and clean enough that you're just like, oh, that's a melody, and you can sing it back to them.
Is that where the term "this bird" came from?
Probably, yeah, yeah. Maybe. Yeah, that's actually very likely. That's funny. Sorry, go ahead though.
You're good. I was saying transitioning into being an artist. So when did that happen?
Yeah, but this is the very most roundabout me still trying to answer the dang question. It happened in 2017, essentially. Okay. So been writing my whole life. In 2010, my dad passed away very, very abruptly, and I immediately stopped writing afterwards.
Crazy how those things happen, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And
they have the opposite effect on some people.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah, it truly would.
The spectrum of effects that tragedy has on artists.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what suffering and trauma can pull out of somebody. And my dad was a musician too, so there was, it was the day before we were going to have a session together, so there was just a lot of layers there. But yeah, I guess just I tried to write. I did sit down and I had music theory, and I had my own sense of voice by that point, and I would sit down and I'd try and write, and it's like it was just like wringing out a dry rag. Every time I would sit down for anywhere between 45 minutes to upwards of 3 hours. I would do it several times a week and for years, and would come up with just something of no substance or absolutely nothing. Like it's just like writing constipation, right? Do
you ever save any of those ideas?
I have very, very few of them.
I was gonna say, have you come back to those after the fact and been like, it's not that there was nothing there, it's just that I wasn't able to access it, or was there really just
or maybe not able to appreciate it?
It very hit or miss, a little bit of both. It was genuinely there just was a lot. There wasn't much life on it,
Gotcha.
There was a few things, and even playing piano, I was still able to do that and express myself fully.
Wow. Okay.
So that's I just put out nothing but piano albums for years.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And what's the artist name for that?
Originally it was all under my name, but then when I transitioned to an artist, I changed the name to Seeg.
Seeg.
Seeg. Yeah. It's just a nickname of mine.
Freaking it.
Bryan Segraves. Has a better ring than Raves.
Raves.
Yeah. Bryan Raves.
It's gonna give the wrong impression.
Bryan Raves.
Yeah.
I'm an EDM artist.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 2017, it's just to kind of speed run through it. But just so, just so many horrible things. But I was raised by my grandparents growing up. My grandmother passed away. And a few months later, my sister passed away. She OD'd, had no history of usage whatsoever.
Wow.
She was in her mid-30s. Absolutely horrible.
Jeez.
Shortly thereafter, went through a breakup. Shortly thereafter, my church that I was the music director at, we had a massive church split and all my friends left, like every one of them. And it was just me. And in sort of the middle of it all, of all this happening, I would go home and the family's in disarray from my sister passing away, and there was a lot of just horrible things happening in my family because of it, like a lot of blame and a lot of very angry people. So I would go home to that, and I would come back to Nashville where all my friends had kind of split, and it was one of those where I was like, I have to write, like I have to. Because if I don't say something, I'm just going to pop as a person. I'm just going to kind of expire, I think, as a person.
I love that imagery. Yeah. Can I pause you super quick?
Yeah.
Is this why every time you post something on Facebook, there's like a bajillion people like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you, Bryan?
I have a lot of people that love me and that root for me, dude.
I mean, I know that for sure. Which means, like, meet this man sometime. You'll see why. But it's like, is it partly also because of all the tragedy too?
Yeah, I'm sure that's a big part of it. It's also like, when you lead worship, I've been very involved in like a few churches, and everybody's mom and aunt and uncle, like they just root for you and love you, kind of thing. So, and I say that half jokingly and half I'm like a stupidly lucky person.
It's like exclusively just a church of people from the Midwest.
Yeah,
just
the
sweetest people.
Yeah, and it's like everyone that's like if I'm like, guys, it was a hard day. Like I have 4 casseroles being mailed to me right now. Like it's just like
all green bean.
Yeah, and it's one, and I don't take it lightly. Honestly, it's really endearing to me.
I agree. Anyway, so you felt like you're about to pop.
Yeah, through a set of those circumstances, and then I just got to the point where like my mental health was so utterly diminished. Like I was having panic attacks for the first time in my life. I don't know if y'all have ever had a panic attack.
Yes, and it was also during one of the lowest points in my life.
They're horrible.
Horrific.
They're like it's like a actual horror movie that you can't turn off, and your body is the thing.
You feel like you're dying. Like it's your body's flight response, but there's no stimulus externally as to why you're getting the flight response. It's really fucking terrifying.
Right. Absolutely. And that's exactly how it felt. So for about 6 months, I was having them, and I remember driving home one day with no stimulus. It was like probably like 1 a.m, just hung out with some friends, super casual. And I had one in my car, and I had to pull over and like put on the hazards. And I was like, please, either somebody hit me or some officer come over and see that I'm like crazy and just like take me into the Bradley Center or something. Like I'd like lost my mind. And I think through like those circumstances of being like my body has something that it's trying to say, and my mind has something through anxiety or whatever form. But basically, I've got something that's trying to get out.
Yeah.
And I've not been saying it or expressing it or getting it out. And I'm not saying that like writing is the thing that saved me or pulled me through, but it ended up being the fruit sort of that time of my life. All that to say that pulled me through into feeling like I need to use my actual voice again, need to sing again, need to write again, all of that. And it's I guess life has a strange way of alchemizing those parts for us to where I just suddenly could. After 7 years, 6 or 7 years of not being able to, suddenly I could sit down and like arrange and write and compose and do all the stuff. And I think at first I sat down and my goal was to write and produce a full song every week. And I did that for a couple of years. And after that, I was like, I've got enough here to kind of share and put out to an album. And so I just rebranded from there and yada, 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 and then released an album a few years later. And still kind of on that journey of really just very selfishly writing. It's not for anybody else. It's not for, I don't even feel like I'm trying to necessarily say something on the behalf of humanity or a target audience. I'm just writing just because I enjoy it. And that's just, what I feel like I need to do.
So you released your first solo album, like as the new rebranding of yourself and everything, and you're working on the next one.
Right.
In between then, we scooped you up.
Correct.
My band, Crusade, Skupja. And around that same time, so we met this cool cat.
I was just making sure that my mic was on over there.
Yeah, it definitely didn't peak or anything.
Is it?
That was shortly after y'all found him?
Very shortly.
I don't know that.
Yeah, like Penn. When did we meet, Casey?
Yeah, I mean, Pendulum had just come out, I think, like a month before. Or
Really?
I think like came out the week we met, maybe even. Something like that. It was very recent.
Yeah, I mean, we met Bryan a week before we had to track vocals. So,
For Pendulum.
For
That's
Pendulum,
actually,
yeah.
I met you at the session
Yes,
to track it. We never met before.
I don't even think did we even speak on the phone?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah, Nathan's like, here's the like you sent me an email. Here's the song. Here's the lyrics. I'm like, Fozzie Bear. All right, let's go. You know?
Yeah.
And I showed up to the thing, and that's literally the first time we actually interacted and met was at the session for Pendulum.
And you can speak to this, Casey. He is a fucking joy to work with in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, not even just because of how much fun you are as a person or generally like agreeable you are to critique or suggestion, but yeah, your stamina is crazy and you stay open and productive and responsive and hopeful. And even when we would be working on one part for hours, it's not like it's not like the takes were bad. It's just like if we were going for something very specific and maybe I was doing a bad job explaining what it was and whatever it was, you just never lost hope and you always tried 100%. And that's, I think, part of why the end result is such a singular vision, you know, because everyone really stuck to it. And you were the person I worked with the most as far as, you know, just having it, what everyone is hearing is kind of like the vocal is the thing that I had the most input over, I'd say.
Oh, truly. It's also the only acoustic instrument on that song.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, the drums.
I mean, yeah, there's the drums.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 13 hours on the vocals of Betrayal, something like that, like lead vocals. And you say you didn't tune them. Are you sure you didn't tune them?
Like, oh God, no. Yeah, I didn't tune them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So
no, I don't like that
mega
sound.
impressive.
Well, yeah. When I get to produce a singer who is actually really good, that's like that. We spent so much time on the vocals. That's because you're really good. That's because it might seem counterintuitive to people who don't produce or record or do music for a living. Mm. But it's as a producer, when you know what someone is capable of, you spend that much more time getting it to where you know it's their best. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, and if you know they're not capable of much, then you know it's just like the sessions are a lot quicker because you're going to be fixing it as you go. At least I do. Like when a singer's really bad and I'm producing them, like they'll do a take and then I'll be like, all right, take a break for 5 minutes and then I'll see if I can tune it to make it work and time it to make it work. Mm-hmm. And if I can, then we're done and it's the next take. And usually when the singer is that bad to where I'm accepting takes that I don't like, but I think I could, you know, deform sufficiently to make sound good in the end. It's because I don't think they're great. But when I think a singer's great, then I spend a fuckload of time with them on making it be like everything I want it to be because I know they're capable of that and they're capable of really doing it. Yeah. And to me, that end result of someone really did it and I didn't have to make it. I didn't have to do the studio magic to make it sound great. That's the kind of difference that people notice but don't know how to describe. And yeah, those are the kinds of things that live forever.
Absolutely.
To me, you know, because everything people hear on the radio, the majority of it is tuned and timed and edited to perfection. And I know because I do a lot of it. And I think that it doesn't leave as much of a lasting impression because without people who aren't
think of one artist in particular that I'm not going to say that I need to show you later that it's like it's too sterile, way too sterile. Doesn't even feel like human beings anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'll show you later.
Yeah, and people can't put their finger on what it is about something that makes it sound too sterile most of the times. Some people can tell the vocals are fake or something, but the majority of people can't, and they're not going to be able to point out why. But I think that the humanity in a performance is the thing.
Oh yeah, like the caveman in all of us can hear that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's something as simple as, you know, most tuning softwares remove harmonics and just keep the fundamental, and that's not what a voice doesn't sound like that. It also sounds fucking boring when a voice has fewer harmonics. A lot of people.
Can I slightly backtrack really quick?
Yeah.
A testament to both your work and also Bryan's work is that, I mean, I've been through comping vocals before. You know, get all the takes, and then you choose which one's the best. I have never been in a situation where the comp was going through not which one is the best, but which one do we like the most stylistically.
Yeah,
because there were so many good fucking options. Like,
you did, and you know,
were spoiled for choice.
And what's funny is sometimes the ones that we picked that are, like, for example, on Betrayal, sometimes the ones that I picked as my favorite one that ended up on there are not the most in tune ones. They're not the most in time ones.
I noticed that today.
Sometimes I like when a vocal is out of tune.
Yeah.
Sometimes, me and my writing partner Yuka just did this. Yuka was on, for those of you watching recently with us.
Episode 4.
Episode 4. Like, we were actually just recording me the other day on our upcoming release, which is released under my name, like Cult of Cthulhu was. And I sang it in tune, but Yuka actually wanted it sharp. So we tuned it sharp. We used tuning software to make something less in tune.
Yeah.
Which is dope.
Which is hilarious.
Sick.
I love it.
Yeah. And, like, I'm way more into that kind of thing than, I mean, I actually don't even know how to justify that necessarily in this context. But
well, it's truly using tools to elevate the artistry, not cover up the lack thereof, or the lack of performance or skill or whatever.
Yeah. Plus, singing, like, to satisfy an ear like Yuka's, when he wants something, when he says he wants it 60 cents sharp, like, he's gonna know if it's off, but, you know, and it's gonna drive him nuts, and it's not gonna achieve the intention. It's not gonna achieve what he set out to do with that part or something, right? So,
right.
And then that particular song, my voice is run through all kinds of distortion effects anyway. So, like, killing harmonics in the source was not a concern.
Right. Because it's so saturated at that point
afterwards, right? So, in that case, it's a little different. But since recording you on that song, I don't think I could say I've had any better experiences in Nashville with a singer than that.
Wow.
That's, I'm really looking forward to the next one, by the way. Because
we need to get on that.
We do. Yeah.
we got a few buns in the oven right now, and I do for my stuff as well.
Great.
I think that really speaks to, and there's sort of, I think the missing,
and that's not to say there's not a lot of great singers in Nashville, by the way.
Right.
But go ahead. Yeah.
Right. They're just not as good as I am.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a really important piece to that is not really just like what's the singer and the performer's piece or the musician's piece, and also what's the producer trying to do, but that relationship is so freaking important in a studio setting where you kind of have to have each individual in their lane. And I know my job as a singer, who has also produced and has also been a musician and has also done a little bit of mixing. Like, I've been in, like, the different seats, but if I'm coming in as a musician and as a singer, my goal is to ragdoll as much as possible. Like, show up, know my stuff, be excellent, perform it to the best of my ability. But I am the instrument, and you're like the piano player in this instant. And, like, if a piano player is really, really good,
how you avoided saying pianist.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
I did avoid saying that. Let the record show.
That'll be the second word outlawed on the Awful Music Podcast. First one is vibe.
Oh, I forgot my vibe. Yeah.
Second one is pianist.
Moist pianist vibes.
Yes.
One of my patrons came into the
comments.
One of my comments came in, or not comments about. One of my patrons came into the comments of that episode where you're bitching about it to Yuka. I was like, I like Casey. He's got a good vibe. It's vibing super hard to Casey right now.
Yeah.
Vibes.
Of course.
It has become a nothing word. I appreciate what it accomplished at first, but it's kind of just become a.
It is. It's exactly what it is.
It's the of this current generation.
Yeah.
Like
vibes.
It's the like of, yeah, that's true.
But the artist and producer relationship, like my goal is to come in, like I said, and ragdoll. So like you think of someone who is a pianist and that they can absolutely shred. Like I've been eating all of Tigran Hamashian's repertoire forever. And every single song that I hear him play and do for the past 2 years, I never one time have had the thought of like, man, that piano sounds really good. I'm like, he, as the keys player, is phenomenal. And I think when a producer is working with a singer, like I have to recognize I'm coming in to be an instrument, and your job is to like get that effect out of, me. The producer's job is to like play the instrumentalist kind of thing and get out of them. So that's just back to, I suppose, like trusting not just your skill set, but your vision for this is what I'm hearing for this. And you're probably not hearing it. And you've also probably never done anything, even in the ballpark of what I'm hearing for this, but just trust me and keep on trying this until we get it locked in. And my job was just to be as open to that as possible.
Oh, that was you saying what I was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess, did you feel that way throughout that process? Like you kind of didn't know what I was talking about?
No. Well, I mean,
didn't really, like I wasn't able to make any references that were helpful.
No, you were helpful and you were clear. What I was saying was I didn't have the vision for the song that you have as the producer. It's kind of not my job to in that setting to a degree.
It was mostly mine, and I didn't have the one that Casey did, but Casey's input was super fucking valuable.
Right. That's what a producer should be bringing, and it's exactly what you did.
Yeah, it's and I appreciate that, though. I hope that it's to me it's kind of a game in democratic situations like that, or something resembling democratic situations like that, where everyone kind of gets to pitch, has an opportunity to pitch what their vision is for the end product. And I think that the reason why that went the way it did is just because I think I asserted myself in a clear way about what regarding how I saw the end result, and everyone just maybe either didn't think about it as much as me, or if they did, they just liked the way I pitched the vision more than what they had already preconceived.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. But also a lot of it was there were lots of times I was like, we got to do it this way. And Mike was like, no fucking way am I letting that happen. And I was like, okay, well then all right.
Yeah, that's out.
Then that means that I just, in the same way that I would be playing you or something, in the same way, I feel like when a vision asserts itself more strongly than the one that I'm asserting, in this form, it was Mike's.
Yeah,
right?
I was the client. So,
so I feel like he, in a way, is trying to wield my skill sets to the best of
to best achieve the vision
that you have. Right. So it is kind of like everyone's kind of doing that to each other in a situation like that, where
collaboration.
Yeah,
truly.
It's almost like there's a word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think over time that's something that with more and more sessions, like that's something that obviously I had my own say so because it was my freaking voice that we were using.
There were tons of times I asked you what you liked most and what you wanted to do, Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway for me from that session, honestly, was, and this is something I've not had to deal with in a studio setting before. Like I've had to really be like in more of like the music theory world, or, how do we get this thing actually, into Pro Tools or whatever. But it's the first session I ever had to where I had to really kind of navigate it from like a emotional standpoint, like an emotional intelligence standpoint, as opposed to like, let me put my theory brain cap on. Because I found really when I would get in a space for takes, it was a lot less helpful for me to be so perfectly on the grid, like exactly what you were saying, and more like into the emotion of what am I actually portraying here. And I'm not an actor, but it's really important for me to be able to muse in those moments. And I think anybody that does any studio work would agree with that.
I don't know. And, I think singing is a form of acting. You're pretending to be something you're not. Yeah. You're trying to feel, empathize with a perspective that you don't necessarily have,
or portray in general.
Right.
Empathize and then portray. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you're not a serial killer. right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
the song. Yeah. Maybe after our next session.
Right.
Yeah.
That one's not till the sequel.
Yeah. That'll be sequel.
Betrayal Part 2. This time Bryan is literally a serial killer. It'll be right there in the title.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to me about that was from not just a musical standpoint. You're talking about stamina, like vocal stamina, and we can talk like, you know, we can talk vocal shop and technique and all that stuff if we want to go down that rabbit hole.
I definitely want to get there at some time today. But
super nerdy about that stuff. I'd love to talk about it.
I think that would be very valuable. But continue about Betrayal.
But for me, I was so taken aback after the session left. I have not held that much physical anger in my body ever before for that period of time, because like we had like a couple of sessions that were over 5, 6, 7 hours. And a lot of the vocalizations require like full body emotive anger manifesting in this tiny little nickel-sized instrument here. You know? Yeah. And I never in my own personal life had never physically held that much anger in my body. And I was like struck by that. Like that's the thing I thought of after the session. I was like, oh wow, like what a sensation, and I had to kind of like come out of the oven for it for a little bit kind of thing. Yeah. I think that was really noticeable for me. And then as the sessions went on, I got better and better tapping in and tapping out of it kind of thing, as opposed to like not tapping in and tapping out of it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because it's long enough ago, and I try not to, after something that I did comes out, I try to not listen to it at all whatsoever. Like,
okay, I didn't know that.
For maybe like a month or two.
Okay.
And and like with that one, there would be times where and I've not had this experience as often as I had with Betrayal, but because I watch. Wow, I combined like and watch into wike.
It sounds like that should be a slur.
Yeah. I watch Mike's channel, and he would randomly, it'd randomly be in the intro or the whatever outro or something, whatever it is. He'd what's the word?
Use it because I can.
The word for promote, whatever.
Yeah.
Plug.
Yeah, plug. Yeah.
And I wouldn't and I wouldn't recognize it at first. Be like, this sounds good. What is this? Like,
it's me.
And I was like, oh shit, I did that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was very different than anything I've done before. And
really,
like I didn't. The textural palette was something it was kind of like the first time I used it on something that came out, and I don't know.
Wow.
So
I didn't even know that. I thought
that
was
like I never did a song with like a heavy, like something resembling a breakdown.
Really,
I fucking hate that word.
Okay,
breakdown.
We can get into that another time.
Yeah, I hate that word to describe, the function that section of a song serves. Yeah. But it was an experiment for me. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And whenever I unexpectedly hear it nowadays,
it's kind of hilarious too, because you're the one who wrote the majority of that
heavy part. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and thanks for reminding me, because I actually always forget that too.
Yeah. You came up with that riff, and then
I came up with it on the spot. Like it was. Yeah. It was like the first idea that popped in. I was like, "How about this?"
So like,
and you were like, "Yeah."
So like,
we just did it.
I had something there that was like really mathy, cool, and angular. Like it's a really cool idea by itself, but for where the song was developing, it needed
something more visceral.
It just felt so out of place with what I had there initially. From where it was to that section, it was just like,
we deleted a whole section.
It feels try hard, but we need something here that's like breakdown-ish, because Jesse wanted a fucking breakdown. Like, okay, fuck it, we'll do breakdown. Yeah, we'll make it work. And
it feels incredibly violent.
Well, that's what we accessed. We were just like, fuck, let's do it. This is fucking. And I was like pacing the room, and you were typing in fucking notes on the mini. I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
It's getting in, dude. That was one of my favorite parts of the whole process, was like between you just like fucking typing shit in, and me just like, okay, what if we try this really quick? We fucking meticulated a simple, effective, and dope as fuck part. That was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
We fucking pop wrote that basically. like not writing like pop, but like the same method that like pop producers in a writing room would do.
What do you mean?
like fucking just like, oh, we gotta fucking figure it out. So let's figure it out really quick. Just like start doing shit and be like, okay, you know what I mean? Like like not being precious with anything.
Yeah, true.
It was really cool.
That was one of the biggest pieces of advice that I because the other week Jay was having one of his Song Factory things here where he brings 10 writers in from LA. And
hold on, really quick for the audience. Jay is the guy
who owns this house in which we're filming this, in which my studio is.
And also is
we've written together a million times. He's one of my best friends. Great producer, writer.
Badass sync guy, badass original.
Yeah, he kills it
guy.
in sync. And every once a month he assembles a group of writers, producers to work on stuff for sync. And he had that happen here the other week. And one of the guys is going around with a camera asking each writer, producer what, the one most valuable piece of advice they learned throughout their career was. And mine was simply just never to get married to anything that you throw out into the room or anything that you record, any idea. Just don't get married to any idea irrationally. Always be willing to say, that is better. Let's get rid of this one that I thought was best. That's the most valuable piece of advice I ever learned. And with that section of Betrayal, I credit my ability to pitch it successfully to Mike to this weird template workflow that I've developed where I have all the instruments laid out in MIDI and they kind of already sound fucking awesome. Like they already sound mixed and shit.
Even your MIDI metal guitars sound pretty legit.
I have I have a way to program guitars and shit like that, and it takes like 2 seconds, and I can do it. I can have a riff in my head, and then under 60 seconds later, after I clicked MIDI notes around, I can hit play and it sounds like a full band fucking just killing a sick riff.
Oh, sick.
You know what I mean? And like if it weren't
I'd be very interested to know some of the libraries you use.
Stupidly good at the articulations. He's really good.
Yeah, well, thanks, but I have to credit it mostly to the library and to my mix template because the mix template is what is so much in 2023, 2022, in which people are kind of already accustomed to metal sounding super tight and gridded and edited and metronomic. It sounding big is really what gets it to be convincing because even if it is like a little too tight, a little too perfect, it's just like he gets what I'm going for. And if the mix is huge,
this is the thing I've been trying to tell Jesse for so long.
Well,
this is with if pitching me ideas. I need to know what it fucking sounds like, not just what the math is conceptually.
Yeah, hearing something sound confident, like to me, a good mix is the difference. I'd analogize by saying a good mix versus like a not mixed, whatever, is the difference between someone singing something with conviction and not singing it with conviction.
Yeah.
That's what a mix does. That's what a mix does to.
It's running,
to manifest the emotion of a song. I think
it's running
it brings
a
the
pentatonic
confidence
scale
to it
versus singing a gospel
to the sonic experience. Yeah, sure. So like, but just being able to do that with that part, because it's like if I picked up a guitar and played it, it'd be like that's really dumb and simple, and like it sounds like it just popped in, and it sounds like it wasn't refined or intellectualized sufficiently to qualify for to be up to par with the rest of the song. But because I had a mix template that sounded great, I could plug it in real quick and then it sounds great and he gets it.
If you just use the default Logic settings for electric guitar on that, I probably wouldn't have been sold necessarily. Like to your point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people need to understand the importance of the sonic the mixing and the sonic facet of
the articulation.
All of that being just an enormous facet of how the emotion and the confidence of a performance or a song or anything comes across.
Oh yeah.
It's just so enormous.
It is like tonality, textures, all those things are like so central to what an idea is, like just as much as here's the numbers and here's the harmony and the progression behind it.
Yeah. And so in my head, when I think of when a part like that pops in, and just for anyone who lost track again, we're talking about that really heavy section in Crusade's Betrayal.
Yep.
Because I'm able to hear what I know, because I'm able to hear in my head what I know I'm going to be able to do with the mix. That's how I know that a riff is going to be fucking cool or not. So I know I'm going to be able to make it sound huge. If I didn't know I was going to be able to make it sound huge, then there's no point in playing a riff that needs to be huge if I can't make it sound the way it needs to.
I think that's another
knowing
reason
that I was going to be the mixer, right?
I think
I'm not going to
another
do
reason
something that
why
I think I can't make
sold
it
on
sound good, which is part of why we always would butt heads on arrangement ideas, because I'd be like, he'd want more things happening than what I thought was sufficient. He'd be like, no, we need this other guitar here. I'd be like, I don't think we do. It's going to make the mix sound smaller to me because there's going to be more things crowding up the space. I think these things fill the space, but then he would really want some other thing there that, because I mean, I ended up agreeing in most cases, right?
Yeah,
Once I was able to get the mix to sound good with that other part that I initially didn't want, that he did. Once I was able to do that, then I was like, okay, yeah, it is cooler this way, you know? And that was a good experience for me, because that was learned. I got to have to, I had to get good enough to make it work, you know?
I think that's partially why I was also convinced on the, what do you call it? The breakdown section, the heavy section too, was because I was like, okay, I know Casey can make this sound big. Like that section wouldn't work if it was like me before knowing you mixing it.
Sure.
Would not have worked at all.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have to know how to arrange the flattering frequencies of every instrument and arrangement to achieve that that size.
So Bryan,
for a simple part.
Bryan complimented my vocal mixing the other week, which I was very flattered by. I didn't think I did an amazing job, but he is basically complimenting you, because you're the one who gave me all the plugins and shit. Cool. You guys need to get together and talk shop on vocal. Actually, might be a good time to just talk shop on vocals in general.
Yeah,
since we've been just fucking blabbering.
You don't think it's too like inappropriate demographically?
If you guys talk like vocal technique, no, I don't think it would be.
Really?
I think as long as you keep in mind that there's people watching who have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, and you explain it along the way. Yeah,
sure, okay.
I think like I would love to do an entire podcast where you just teach me vocal technique. I think that would be really cool.
Okay,
because I'm the empty vessel here.
Yeah, I don't really think I'd be able to fill a podcast with that. I don't know enough about it, but anyway,
I bet you fucking could. But either regardless,
producing vocals, yes, but like teaching singing, like vocal anatomy and all that stuff,
different.
It's a very different thing. And I know enough to direct singers to help with deficiencies in the studio, but not to like teach someone how to sing necessarily. I mean, well, you don't even need that. You already can. So
I definitely could use some help. Either way, fucking
everyone needs a vocal instructor.
So instead of that, I mean, we have a man here who knows too much about vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my whole vocal journey and story is like I'm so fascinated by the way the voice works and how it, obviously emotes and connects with music. But especially growing up, I was always like just kind of not vocally good enough to make the cut in anything that I did. And I think part of my personality is really, really competitive. And as the meme goes, I took that personally. I just wanted to develop myself vocally. And what it's turned into is, especially in the past, I'd say like almost 10 years, is wanting to help other people do the same kind of for themselves. And so I wouldn't call myself a vocal coach or
even though it's literally what you do.
Even though that's literally what that's my actual day job is I'm doing vocal coaching,
which is hilarious.
And it's such a freaking joy to like get those light bulb moments with individuals, and they're like, I know what I'm hearing and I know what my voice is doing, but I don't know why it's not doing this thing. And then we can go through and give, someone, here's some basic information, and then here's a set of exercises you can use. And then like within a week or two, like they're there already. And they're like, I thought this would take months, years. And it's like, no, dude, like you had the pieces, you just weren't putting them together right, Now let's go from there and like let's blow this thing up bigger than you expected it to go, kind of thing.
I need to pay you to coach me then.
Let's go.
Yeah, he's your guy helpful for that, not me.
Okay, word. Yeah. I literally could use the help. I need to figure some things out, but that's besides the point. I for years I sang wrong
And I developed a series of really bad habits that I went through probably 30 different vocal instructors before I found the woman.
A little bit.
Before I found the woman who ended up even being able to figure out what the fuck I was doing wrong and to teach me how to stop doing it. And it was like tension issues. You know, I was like tensing up and whatever. Breathing wrong. Yeah, like that woman, like within like our first lesson, I had a light bulb, like that achieved one of those light bulb moments, and it required that I stopped smoking cigarettes.
Really?
Yeah, it was the head voice thing. It was the mixed voice thing.
Yeah.
It's not the case for everyone though. So I mean, some of my favorite singers ever live who clearly had great mixed voice and all that were chain smoked constantly. But for me, for whatever reason, it smoking. As soon as I stopped, my head voice appeared, and I didn't have one before that, and that made singing like easy, basically, because with mixed voice you don't need to use as much air, and it's a lot easier to control.
Can you give a demonstration really quick of chest, head, and then mixed for the normies out there?
You'd be better suited to explain it.
So let's start with chest voice. What's chest voice?
Yeah, so chest voice, and the reason why it's called chest voice, I feel like most people have heard the term chest voice, but they're like, why is it called chest voice? The reason why we use the term chest voice is because for most people, but not everybody, but most people feel vibration happening in their chest. And so whenever I'm talking,
I don't, but I know what you mean.
Right. And so case in point, even when I'm talking now in sort of this lower register, it feels like, and it sounds like to me, like my voice is coming from like the middle of me or a lower part of me, because this is where I'm vibrating predominantly.
Yeah.
As opposed to my voice is actually literally coming out of my mouth, which is the truth. Like
which is also
coming out of.
Or most of the vibration is like here.
Right. Right. Yeah. There's vibration happening here. We can talk about resonance in a bit, but essentially there's a ton of vibration happening in the chest. Versus head voice, it's kind of up here. It's like the Mickey Mouse sound. Oh boy.
I'm gonna fuck you in the ass, Star Wars.
That's Star Wars. Like the entire franchise.
Yeah, I mean they did it. Certainly fucking did it.
Yeah.
Okay, no. It's like Mickey Mouse and Star Wars did not put those two together.
Yeah.
But they did. So head voice is, and we call it head voice because when most people talk in it or sing in it, you feel the vibrations happening.
It feels like
kind of more up here. Kind of more up here.
I don't feel that any more or differently.
Yeah.
It's with vibration.
Like I said,
I feel like that's why it's always confused me when people say this shit, but this is making so much sense.
So I said most people, not everybody.
So when you're talking like this,
I'm the asshole.
So you're talking when you're talking like this versus talking like this, you don't feel it resonate differently.
No, I mean, like I feel like kind of like a thing here, and then I feel kind of like a thing here where it goes like here.
But it does feel higher. It feels like it sits higher.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't feel like in my head. So I was like, I'd call it like
is definitely more.
Okay. I feel that vibrating in my head.
Yeah.
See, so that mixed voice is mixing that
both of them
with
mixing
chest.
head and chest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do I do that? I
that was
kind of like
there you go, because
it's super simple actually.
Oh, is it?
It actually is. Yeah.
Fix my problems now, Bryan.
Okay, keep on doing that, and you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I doing it?
A little bit lower, so am I doing it?
I'm fucking barf.
Like how everyone's clipping the shit out of their mics. Yeah.
The rest of the episode needs to be like so quiet, just so that can be normal volume.
Right. There's something called compression that we utilize. In 2020 in the 21st century.
Okay. Oh, you mean compressors? I thought you meant vocal compression.
Well, that's a word some people
use.
Some people use the term compression to describe the distortion sound or the raspy sounds.
Oh, okay.
Some people use compression. Chris Lipe famously says.
Is that accurate? Like to use that term, or is it just kind of like a slang?
It's accurate in the way it feels because he's very feel oriented. He teaches from a place of everything needs to feel like this or feel like that.
Very kinesthetic.
Yeah, he's amazing, by the way. Me and
Mhm.
Spencer Sotelo from Periphery the other night were talking about him because he worked with him. They released a vocal course together,
Which is phenomenal. I've gone through that warm-up course. It's phenomenal.
yeah, Chris is great. But anyway, when I figured out what head voice was, I basically learned that it was just like loud falsetto.
Mhm.
Versus.
Is there a difference between?
Making that loud.
Is there a difference between head voice and falsetto?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's the difference?
It's so a really useful term I found with vocalization is the term coordination. So like, what's the coordination you're using with your voice to
Okay.
actually produce the sound, kind of thing. So head voice and falsetto, even though they're in the same register and in the same range, and they may feel very similar, the difference is the coordination. You're going to get it's going to be a lot softer and a lot more airy with falsetto.
So like instead of
head voice, falsetto.
okay, so instead of like it'd be like that.
Falsetto
Okay.
is the-
Yeah. In the
Okay.
ballpark, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So that's
Though, aren't they both technically, or rather anatomically, they're both the inside folds of the chord?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's anatomically they're even the same.
That's probably why I confused them then.
it's kind of like
Everyone
someone
does.
saying like, what's the difference between chest voice and belting? And it's like, well, they're kind of actually the same thing. You use your chest voice to belt. You use your head voice to perform falsetto, but falsetto is a different coordination of the head voice.
There you go. Okay, I've not heard it articulated that well, so I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that tracks
Yeah.
for me. Yeah,
Oh, that's been my case. So chest voice down here, head voice up here. And what's important to know about the mystical mix is that we're always kind of mixing. Always. And so even
Okay.
talking in chest voice, it's really like I'm using 90% chest and 10% head.
Okay.
you just
Right.
did it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
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 all right.
Okay.
You kinda-
That's a
you
mixed
go-
voice.
That's
you
a mixed.
kinda-
That's a mixed voice.
Yeah,
That's a mixed voice. I'm trying to hold a tone. It sounds shitty and terrible.
yeah. Like if you go, really,
Oh,
really,
like that. Oh.
yeah, because you feel a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Resonance.
I feel like I get a lot of breakup when I tried.
Yeah,
stuff like
so there was an exercise that this woman, her name was Liz Lewis, magician, taught me in order to gain control over going from mix to chest, and it was called the waterfall. And you start in head. And see how when they come down, you can't hear the crack?
Mm-hmm.
I always there's I shouldn't say always, but there's usually like a transition that happens with me.
But if you, yeah,
like,
so
there's like there's like
there's a little crack. Yeah, so yeah, the waterfall exercise enables you to just master there not being one. So you can still, I mean, it's like that there's always that effect that singers do, like famously in Zombie by the Cranberries.
I guarantee there's gonna be a lot of podcasters really pissed off for making all these weird noises.
Yeah.
Also, this is like 100% of all vocal exercising
Yeah, it
and
is.
practice. If you ever want to practice or exercise your voice, it is just the most
The
strange
fucking
sounding
annoying
exercise.
shit
Yeah,
you've ever heard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1000% accurate.
Yeah.
that's what cars are for.
Yeah.
Bad
They-
bad movie.
That's what Mater from Cars 2 is for.
But yeah,
Yeah, for Cranberries.
there's the difference is like the effect where you want to hear the crack from the chest to falsetto.
Right.
But when I learned how to not do it if I didn't want to, that was when I really figured out that's when I felt like I really mastered just being able to sing a line without breathing and stopping or getting in my head about it. I could just seamlessly come down into chest from mixed or go up into it or whatever the
Right.
fucking they're within one note, right?
Yes.
And
yeah.
and they're not, and no one be able to tell. Well, I mean, and you know, they're not be a discernible like, oh, now he's singing in
Yeah.
falsetto or something, you know.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, well,
Okay,
I think of for for me, it was like lip trills. That's like the most basic go-to exercise on the planet.
Did you do the ones where like the brr?
I didn't have to stretch out, no, because I played trombone for years. And so
You guys are gonna need video for this one.
Yeah.
So for mixed voice, now I'm going to get a little anatomical and a little bit nerdy for a second, just to
Please
kind of like explain, because I
Teach
feel like
me.
this is something that like the average person that watches like America's Got Talent hears these words all the time, but like they're like, well, what does it actually mean to like mix and all that? And
Yeah, they're even more like they get even more technical in American Idol.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so with chest voice and head voice, what's happening is you've got your vocal folds, which are you've got a left and a right vocal fold, just two pairs right here, and they're vibrating at a very specific rate to each other.
Yes.
And there's a network of muscles connected to these, and not all of them are super important to know initially, but the two for chest and head voice, their technical names are the cricothyroid and the thyroid-retinoid muscles. We call them the CT or the TA for short. So your TA muscles are the muscles that are predominantly responsible for your chest voice coordination, whereas your CT muscles are responsible for your head voice muscles. A good way to think about this is like the difference between a bicep and a tricep is they're both two different muscles, but they're connected to the same apparatus. So you've got your arm moving in two different directions, but one way's the bicep, other way's the tricep. Same exact thing with those two muscles. So what the mixed voice is from an anatomical standpoint is both of those muscles are working in tandem with each other. So it's like a compound movement.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like it's kind of like walking. If I'm just walking physically with my body, it's like, well, you use just your legs for that. You'd look like an idiot if you just use your legs when walking. Like there's a little bit of shoulder movement, and your arms are kind of gyrating with your body and keeping balance. Your core is doing a few things. You're using, granted, a much less percentage than your legs for walking, but you're still using a percentage of your upper body for balance, right? And so we'll just call it like 90%, 10%. Same thing for mixed voice. If I'm in chest voice, it's like 90% chest, but there's a little bit of those muscles from my head voice that are still kind of coming in through, even if it doesn't sound like head voice.
And you can mix different amounts.
Be flipped to I was about to say. Yeah.
Yep, you can adjust that percent, and a good singer won't necessarily be like, what does 79, 21 sound like?
Yeah.
But having useful gradients of like, okay, here's my 50-50, here's my 90-10, and then like here's kind of a shade in between. You'll be able to kind of access those.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I don't even know how to get close to 50-50 at this point.
No.
I don't even fucking know. You're going to have to teach me.
So 50-50 is just lip buzzes. If I'm doing, not everybody can do a lip buzz at first. It's kind of like doing a Spanish rolled R. You're like way ahead of the game at the point. So that physical sensation here, while you're doing that is what mixed voice and its perfect 50-50 should feel like.
Really?
If you're mixing, it should feel like. That's what your mixed voice right there should physically feel like.
So it's hard to discern, mostly because I'm getting so much sensation from the lips.
From your face.
It's all tingling now.
Yeah.
It's really fun, though. Everyone at home, try this.
Yeah. Just away.
1, 2, 3.
So that's
This is where we get the big drop off in viewer retention.
Yeah.
As far as like the sounding difference goes, like head voice on a versus chest voice, which pulling the mic back would be a that's all chest versus mix is more of a
That's your chest?
Yeah.
I guess I can kind of get that kind of chest.
There's your screenshot.
Like I have to do that to reach the chest there. Like let's like I don't know. Okay, so that's all chest. That's all chest for you anyway. I don't know if I can. I don't know if that's all chest for me. Regardless, like I keep going.
Yeah. So like if I'm doing if I'm doing Don't Stop Believing, the very end of the very end of like the sort of pre-chorus section. So you've got the people right there. So if I'm doing all chest, which I wouldn't recommend for my vocal range and that, or for anybody's vocal range, but that's going to be
Okay, so you got a little break up there.
And that's how you fry yourself out.
Okay.
Versus mixing.
Yeah.
Like tonally, I should not say tonally. Timbre-wise, it doesn't sound any different from what I can tell.
That depends on the singer.
Oh, okay. Very specific.
For me, you'll hear an enormous. You know this. You listen to me sing enough, right?
Yeah.
Like think of the chorus of "Candle in the Dark."
Yeah.
Versus,
Candle in the dark. Or you're like way up there.
That's like the very beginning of it versus the verse, and a lot of people say it sounds like two different people. So like a lot of singers, it's called the passaggio regions. They'll have their timbres will change throughout as they cross them, and some singers don't have much.
I feel like mine
of a change, and some singers do.
Yeah, have a massive
change. Mine has an enormous. My voice gets way brighter when I mix.
Yeah,
and it sounds like a different person almost. It's just
different instruments. Yeah, mine's pretty similar. Mine's a little duller sounding kind of thing, but it's pretty similar.
You son of a bitch.
It depends.
It's
so jealous.
It's an apple orange thing.
I don't want to sing like Rob
things.
Halford or King Diamond. I want to sing like Steve fucking Perry.
Yeah, I don't know. He had to, man, his voice, some singers' voices as they age go from like lyric tenor to like fucking baritone.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those.
He is. He had not a significant amount. I think there's a lot of famous singers that had a lot of vocal damage. He had a little bit, but there's a couple that come to mind, like Freddie Mercury. Famously
you
had
definitely
some,
hear that.
Had some he had nodules, but he had some vocal damage that had him like year to year. He didn't like consistently go in this direction. It was very like one year was really, really awesome, and then the next year was like he was struggling, and then he was good again, and it was kind of back and forth kind of thing.
Another vocalist who had nodules was James Hetfield.
A ton of singers have had nodules. Ton.
Poor guy. I was trying to trigger Casey because you're talking about Metallica.
Yeah!
Just no more Metallica discussion, please. So bored.
Did you know that Mike likes Metallica?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Dream Theater?
Apparently, there's a whole bunch of people who think I hate Metallica because I just did all those fucking reactions to.
Dude, have you heard
mediocre...
the Black album? I'm sorry to cut you off. Have you heard their Black album? It's pretty good.
Never actually.
Yeah. It's got Unforgiven. That's all I know from it, but I think you dig it.
Wait, does it have the Understand Man?
Yeah, the Interesting Man.
They understand me.
The Understand Man.
Understand Man.
Nirvana is my favorite Metallica song.
Oh yeah,
the band Nirvana.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Starring the famous guitarist June Pachinko.
Yes,
he had nodules. He developed those.
Yeah. It was actually during the Black album, but we don't have to. I was just trolling. I mean, that's literally true, but sorry, I was just trying to troll you a little bit.
Yeah.
Funny enough, nodules.
Sounds like it sucks. I've never had that, luckily. But
nodules happen in mostly like in teachers and public speakers.
Really?
There's more teachers famously have more vocal damage than any other profession almost in the world.
They're not singing.
Yeah, but they're overexerting their voice.
Really?
Yeah. Projection does a lot more. I can say for a fact for me, and for not just for me, for a ton of other people, but in my experience, I've only lost my voice 2 times in the past, like since 2010. Outside of laryngitis or like some illness or something. And both of them have been because I've been hanging out with friends late at night over talking for an extended period of time.
Damn.
Simple as that. And that will do it. Like that'll absolutely do it.
I've had some times after like 2 days of long streams where I feel like I've definitely overexerted my voice, but I don't know if it's just the fact that I'm getting more used to it or if it's the fact that I'm using my voice more healthfully during stream. I don't have it as much. Like I notice some wear, but it's not like, oh fuck, I don't want to talk, like I just don't want to do anything. So I don't know. That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, there's good fatigue and bad fatigue with the voice, but
interesting.
Over time, like
if like you're warming up is technically fatigue.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
Yeah, but it's like stretching your muscles before a workout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know if I could say, I know we're like super nerdy on vocal stuff,
As long as we explain to the audience what the fuck we're talking about,
what's
I'm
a
good.
cricothyroid? Heck, I don't know.
Yeah.
A good warm up, like if I don't warm up, I sound like I'm 14 years old and like just trying to sing for the first time. Like
Yeah.
I cannot stress the importance
Yeah.
of a good warm up, like a good conscious warm up. It only needs to be like 10, 15 minutes, but like a good warm up is the difference between actually singing well and not being able to perform at all.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Mm.
It's true for me too. Though sometimes the first take into my iPhone is still the best one.
Right,
and I
right.
didn't warm up.
It's got the sauce on it for
Yeah,
whatever reason.
Yeah.
Dude, have you heard some of the recordings he did for voice with just his iPhone?
Here, let me show you.
I was like, you don't have to.
I would
let me show-
love to hear.
Let me show it to the.
It's not gonna come across well here, but like,
oh, yes, it will. Just wait.
like I was blown away by how much low end is there. I was shocked.
Here's a final vocal for my upcoming.
This is not a lie. He just
upcoming
spoke
song.
into his fucking phone.
master class in singing.
They're not going to be able to
Masterclass.
hear how much low end is actually there on
It's
that.
incredible, dude.
Oh, it's bad. Oh, yeah.
It actually is funny, but yeah, that was my next single is based on "Color Out of Space" by Lovecraft.
Huh.
So it's about a meteor strikes a farm town and starts to mutate the DNA of all the life, the people.
After we're done, you have to show him. It's good.
the people, the plants, the animals, whatever. So that was like me doing an imitation of mutating into this fucked up, deformed life form. And it's like it comes at a point in the song where everything else stops, and it's just that for that amount of time, and then a huge boom.
But also a really fun sample layered in at the end that I won't spoil. That sample is Jesus fuck.
It's also Fozzie Bear.
Oh yeah, that's
Waka Waka.
It's the entirety of Pendulum by Crusade, all 6 minutes of it, sampled at the very end of the song.
Boy. Yeah, yesterday at fucking at a rehearsal, we were going back and forth doing different vocal parts in the style of Goofy. This is really fun.
Yeah.
It's a good way to break up the monotony of rehearsal.
Yeah. Which, if you've never heard the goofy vocalization of Evanescence's "Bring Me to Life," like literally cut this video off and look it up now. That's incredible. Wake me up. He's incredible. Save me.
Save me from the nothing I've become. Have you heard this, Casey? You need to.
No, that's Evanescence.
It's a guy doing a goofy voice as Evanescence. It's
okay.
No, you need to hear it.
I won't. I don't know. That's time I will never get. Life's too short. I get it.
You already said you're done.
Life's too short. Therefore, you should listen to this. That's the argument.
I get that. Okay, I get it. I can hear it in my head already. I don't need.
No,
it.
No. It's not the same as experiencing it.
So we're giving you like the crappy demonstration. Imagine like the cool like Casey template mix version of us pitching this to you.
Yes.
Now listen to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's good.
Cool.
Still don't need to hear it. A nodule is correct me if I'm wrong, when the chords collide too often and it creates basically like a callus.
Yeah, it
from
can
collision, right? It's specifically the chords colliding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah, the term for it's like just general overuse, but yeah, it's either the vocal folds actually like hitting each other too hard, or back to the term compression, which we used earlier, means something completely different for vocals than it does for the rest of the music world, which is kind of stupid to me. But compression, in my understanding with the voice, is it's just the relationship between your air support, which is like the single most important thing about the voice, is how you support the air, and how the muscles in your vocal folds resist that air.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So too much air, not enough resistance. Not enough air, too much resistance. Neither one of those are really usable vocalizations. Right?
Okay.
But you want to have the right relationship, and it's not about more air or more resistance. It's the correct relationship between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that will come from typically just way too much air or way too much resistance in one of the camps or the other.
Yeah.
for an extended period of time. What's the most embarrassing public musical thing, like performance-wise, that's ever happened to y'all?
My whole first tour of Periphery.
Your whole first?
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, I was terrible. I didn't know how to sing at all.
Do you want to talk about it or no?
Yeah. No,
okay. I don't want to.
There honestly ain't much to say. It was just like I had no previous experience touring or playing live, except for 2 or 3 times at Berkeley that I performed. Like actually performed live, not like in class, because I learned to singing in front of a class of other singers. So that's how at Berkeley, that's what you do. It's called Vocal Lab. It's one of your classes, and if you're a vocal principal, and you're majoring in vocal performance, you're singing in front of other singers all the time, and you do your thing, and then everyone tells you where you fucked up, what you need to do better.
Yeah, and you have stress dreams about it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just they humiliate you, and it makes you better, right? And it's great, and they're all really, but they're nice, and it's cool. Sometimes they're not, but either way, yeah. But like aside from that, which doesn't count because you're, at least not for me, it didn't, because I wasn't performing original music. I wasn't trying to sell myself as an artist. You know, there wasn't that emotional connection to the music. It was class, and it was about proficiency. Whereas with being in Periphery and performing this music that you're kind of putting forth as some part of you, and it's, you have to devote yourself to being in this band, and it's metal, so it's like really, it's like it's artistically rewarding and fulfilling, but it's like you have to give everything to it.
Yeah,
as a
very demanding
for it to have any chance. And so on my first tour with Periphery, I just never done. I had played live like 3 times before that, and I'd only ever recorded my vocals, in the studio. And so I didn't realize that there were things I like
before
was
going
doing
on
wrong.
tour with fucking Periphery.
Yeah, but
that's a biggie.
Yeah, but that was like they had hardly any following at that time. We were brand new, and no one really. There was like an internet following, kind of. Our shows were like 100 people, sometimes like 10. Sometimes 1,000. It was weird. There was like one show that was like tons of people, and then one that was like 15 guys, and then one that was only the other bands that were on tour with us that were in the audience.
Oh, it's the best feeling.
Those are the best, honestly.
Yeah.
Those shows end up being pretty
stuff
dope.
like that. So like, and for me, I have, and a lot of people talk about this. Like, some people, when it comes to performing and bearing their emotions on stage, some people will notice an enormous difference in their ability to become vulnerable between the crowd being huge and the crowd being tiny. For me, I always had a terrible time emoting and being in it and becoming immersed in the performance. The fewer the people there were in the audience.
I'm noticing that myself, actually.
I need like, the more people there are, the less nervous I am, the more immersed I can become in the emotion and the performance. And so that tour really put that to the test, on top of me not having any idea how to perform. Like, what do I do with my hands? How do I look like I'm
the performance part of it's so different from the vocalization part too, isn't it?
Yeah, and it ruins the vocalization part because you're in your head about that, and and the singing part wasn't second nature to me yet, and the performing part I was like had no idea what I was doing. So, like you kind of need for it to go really. Okay. You need one of them to be second nature, and for me, like neither of them were. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing as a performer, and I could barely sing live, and also I wasn't able to hear myself very well all the time, and so there's just like the perfect storm of things, and I just like was not I was just not good at it.
I just want to quickly highlight Casey. There's not much to talk about. Also, Casey did a whole 5 minutes uncut.
Really? I guess I never really thought about how much there is to say about
there's a lot to say. Yeah.
Doing your first ever tour, having no touring experience as a singer.
Oh, yeah.
And the weird thing was too is that it wasn't like it was that demanding as a set, because I had only, at the time that we did that tour, I only had written like 1 or 2 full songs, and so like the majority of the set was the band performed instrumentally because we just didn't have vocals written for them.
Bulb shit.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was all Bulb at the time. Everything that was Periphery was started as Bulb.
Gotcha.
I think I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And so like it was a majority of it was instrumental. I would just come out to sing one or I think either 2 or 3 songs, and I could barely manage it just because I was scared, embarrassed, didn't know how to do anything.
I think my single most embarrassing moment as far as like public music goes, I think of like stuff like when I was younger and it's like, oh, I couldn't quite perform that and I was bad. And that's, it's kind of its own thing that I think everybody has. But I think the single, the memory that comes to mind for me is when I was in college, we had this like industry style showcase at my university. And it was like an American Idol style kind of thing. And so they had like local cameras there and it's broadcast to, the whole like Southeast, and there's a few thousand of the student body there and all that stuff. And you go out, you do a song, original, cover, whatever, and then there's a panel of judges, and then they knock it down to the top 3, and the top 3 get free studio time with some studio in Montgomery kind of thing.
Nice, okay.
So pretty cool deal. And so the actual song went totally fine. Like it was whatever. It wasn't embarrassing or anything like that. But afterwards, because it's like this camera and syndicated event, the MC went down and was trying to kill time while the judges were tallying scores. And so he goes to every individual in the line. There's like 15 of us. And he goes to the first person who was like, hey, Tiffany, like you sounded great. How do you think you did tonight? And she's like, well, da-da-da-da-da. And she says her thing, gets to the second person. Man, you sounded really good. And competition's tough out here, but how do you think you did tonight? And this joker systemically goes down one by one and asks everyone the same exact question. How do you think you did tonight? And I'm like number 11 in the line because my last name starts with an S, and like my whole life is a joke because of that. And he gets, because you end up getting getting your last in line. You're like close to the end of the line for everything, alphabetically.
Yeah. So
it's true. So he gets like to me in my head, like I've got this answer that's like kind of perfect, I'm like, it's kind of self-deprecating and like really kind of points to the other musicians and artists, but like, I think I did all right and we'll see how it goes kind of thing. And this dude gets to me and is like, hey, Bryan, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, you fucking asshole.
And like, if you've never like freezed on like the fight, flight, freeze level, like full just take over, I freaking locked up. I couldn't have told you my first name. I couldn't have told you what shoes I was wearing. And I couldn't have looked down and given you any information. I literally just I went like, on TV. And just like, and after like 6 or 7 seconds, I'm not going to say what he said because it was actually like, it was a definitely cut it from TV moment kind of thing. Yeah. But he said something super, super inappropriate in response to it and then moved on. And because he did, they cut my answer because of what he said, because it was so inappropriate. So
you
they actually cut me.
You suck your mama's dick with that
mouth? Would you like to? Dad?
Oh, man.
And so like I ended up being spared from it, but I'll just, you never forget that feeling of like, I've never not been able to access an actual single thought before. And like in that moment, I'm like, I'm never doing anything like this again, dude. That was horrible.
Dear God. Okay. That is horrific. Okay. My worst moment. It's going to take, I'm going to do this as quickly as possible to set it up just so you get context.
It was our first Crusade show together, wasn't it?
No, definitely not. Although the very first Crusade show, well before you were in it, so when we didn't have a vocalist, was also interesting. But anyway, so like I moved here 2014 and I found a metal band to join as a vocalist of all things pretty quickly. And I felt like I had wasted a year of my life because in that entire time we hadn't recorded anything or played a show. And we had gotten together and rehearsed and blah, 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 whatever. Like after that, I was like, okay, I'm taking shit into my own hands. So that's why I started the YouTube channel, is because I was like, okay, doing it myself. Don't want to, if I'm going to waste my time, it's going to be me, not someone else. Years later, YouTube channel starts doing good. I'm in the last day job I'm going to have, my best one thus far. And the drummer from that band hits me up and he's like, hey, they got this like rockabilly, psychobilly, I don't know what the fuck it is, but like hard rock, rockabilly thing that we need a guitar player. Are you interested? And at this point, I'm trying to get out and play live more. I don't care what it is, just to do it because it needs to be a part of me, and because of the YouTube channel, it's kind of been pushed to the side. So I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. Go to this dude's house in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's a big house. It's kind of cool. And come to find out, this guy is a wino and he's like the leader and writer. And as we're learning the songs, he doesn't remember how they go. The songs that he wrote, he doesn't remember how they go, which is amazing.
Did you get paid for this gig?
No.
Oh God. Okay. This is a lose-lose.
I did. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't get paid by him. We got paid for being at the gig because there was equal splits, but I felt really bad about being paid for that. Really bad. So let me finish here. So the idea of this was like I was joining knowing there was a gig coming up in like a month and a half or whatever. Went to a few rehearsals, and after a while, I'm like talking to this drummer. I'm like, dude, we don't know the songs. Like, oh yeah, they're pretty close. I'm like, but we don't know the songs. There's multiple times where I've started to stop because I'm like, well, this is where the song ends, and everyone else keeps going, and I'm just like we gotta decide on a form. So to the Mr. Wino man, I say, hey, I want a chart. It doesn't have to be a specific chart, just a chart that's like verse, chorus, like number of measures for each one, and end. This is how it fucking ends. Or tell me we feel it. You know, we just kind of feel it here, like on an ending. We vamp for a second, and then that's where you would decide, like, you know, look at someone for a cue or get a cue, or something like that. But barely even got that out of him. Which, by the way, some of them weren't even complete. I was like, okay, fuck it, I'll make this happen. I already said I was gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it. So we go to the show. I'm nervous as hell. I have a rig that is literally my fucking Ibanez plugged directly into my fucking half stack, a fucking JSX. Not a great tone. I mean, it's not a terrible tone, but not like an amazing tone. Our drummer is a metal drummer, and this guy is playing an electric upright bass. So he comes in with like fucking like face paint and shit on. The only guy at Acme Feed and Seed downtown with face paint on and eyeliner.
Which is like, just to be clear to everyone who's not familiar with Nashville, Acme Feed and Seed is like
Tourist Central.
Nashville tourist, like every bachelorette party scavenger hunt starts there.
Yes, yeah. It's like the quaint, like kind of family place, but not exactly.
Right, and you're like super esoteric out the gate.
Yeah. And he's sitting there just basically chugging wine. Just basically chugging wine the whole time. He's also the vocalist too, which is great. We start getting on with the show, and we're not doing so hot. It's whatever. It's kind of loose. It's shitty. The sound is horrific. It's not dialed in. And 2 songs in, he decides to walk to the middle of the stage, take his shirt off, throw it into the crowd of 15 people sitting at tables. Get back to his bass. The next song we play, partway through, his bass goes out and it's just 60 cycle hum. And he has no idea why. No sound is coming out of this thing. He's shirtless, fiddling with his fucking bass on stage. So then I look at my drummer and I just start chugging an open E string, and then we just start doing a metal jam. And for the first time that entire evening, people started bobbing their heads and smiling of us just making up shit.
Wow.
It was a horrifically mortifying experience. My first and only time playing on Broadway in Nashville was that.
Yeesh.
It was the worst. But also, it's hilarious to talk about. It's so fucking funny.
Jeez.
It's funny you talk about like the lack of, I don't even know, like it's obviously a lack of preparation on that, but
without a doubt.
The first time I ever played with my dad on like a gig, I was probably
lack of preparation and excess of fucking wine,
which makes and lack of shirts, and I'm picturing literally Sting from like circa 2003 NWO.
It was kind of that. Yes.
Was it literally Sting?
Except like picture like the shitty skeleton face makeup from Karate Kid, like that, like somewhere between Sting and shitty Karate
like
Kid
a
face
kabuki
makeup.
mask kind of thing. I think of playing with my dad for the first time. I was somewhere between the ages of 10 and 13 probably. And it was a random gig. He was actually playing at a battered women's shelter. And of all the random places in the world kind of thing. Also, my dad was like an incredible blues musician. He was like inducted into the Blues Music Hall of Fame in 2015. He was incredible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Fuck yeah.
And so I went to play the thing with him, and you know, I knew how to chicken peck on the piano, and so he was like, play piano and sing background vocals.
I'm sorry, hold on. You said chicken pick on the piano?
Yeah.
But what do you mean by that?
Like individual little fingers on notes kind of thing.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
See, when I think chicken pick, I think guitar.
Yeah,
Sorry,
guitar technique,
gotcha.
So yeah, I show up to this thing, and it was the same thing where I turned to my dad. I was like, hey, you know, will you at least tell me what key this song is in, as a joke, because I don't really know how to play keyboard that well at the time, and I don't know any of the songs. I don't know what we're doing, kind of thing. I just remember my dad laughing and be like, yeah. And then he did a sound check, and we both checked our instruments, and then 20 minutes later we were playing for all these people, and I was like, well, crap, I'm doing a show where I don't know the instrument I'm playing, and I don't know the songs, kind of thing. But funny enough, I had the polar opposite experience, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I got enough of an ear to tell what's in or what's out. You know, I can tell, like, is that bad note or good note kind of thing. And so I'm like, good note, stay there. Bad note, don't press that again, kind of thing. And so I'm kind of doing that the whole time. And the thing ends, and in my head, I wasn't like, that freaking sucked. I was just like, I felt very, very underprepared for it, and I just wasn't sure of like how it would be perceived by a public audience, kind of thing, obviously. And I remember one by one, these people, like these women came up, and one by one they were just so complimentary, because like they didn't get to hear a lot of music, kind of thing, like live music. And they were like, that was so wonderful. Thank you guys so much for sharing with us and all that. And like it was like a life lesson moment for me. Like, it doesn't matter if you know or if you don't. If you're the person there in the seat, like, serve with the best of your capability.
Mhm.
You know? Like, do the most that you can with what you have, and just, you know, trust it to set on fire if you can, in a good way. You know,
I think that's a beautiful way to sum up the podcast.
Mm.
It's beautiful, Bryan.
All right, yeah, bye.
Okay, be a cunt.
I can think of one better way.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do our head voices on 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
All right. Fuck you.